Okay, welcome. It's Tuesday, 10 October in the year of our Lord 2023. Want to start, we're going to get into a lot of what's going on, particularly additional updates on what's happening in the House. 202-225-3121. It's never too late. Remember, the Wall Street Journal, as I said earlier, Wall Street Journal not happy about you guys having a say-so in any of this. So 202-225-3121 is the House. The Senate, and they're trying to push us to immediately, we've got to elect a Speaker of the House immediately because aid packages, Ukraine, Israel, all over, anywhere but the southern border of the United States. However, the Senate's not even around. So they're out traveling the world on your nickel on what are called CODELs, or congressional delegations. The whole thing's just a scam. So they're just trying to sit there and say, we can't do anything because the House doesn't have a speaker. That's all complete crap. We can't, and the big fight's going to get over the rules, particularly the motion to vacate, which, as you know, is your bayonet to the back of these losers up here. We're going to get into all that. Dr. Shawn joins us now, Jace Medical. Dr. Shawn, there's wars and rumors of war all over. Chinese Communist Party with their partners in Tehran are up to no good, as they always are. In these types of emergencies, I wanted to start the show with you today because I want to give people, we always love self-empowerment, self-reliance, want to make people have access to everything, all of our sponsors on the show. Walk me through why now, what Jace Medical actually does, and these types of turbulent, troubled times, it's very important to at least have gone and see the products and services you offer.
Yeah, thank you, Steve, for this opportunity. I think really these are the kinds of times, I can tell you personally, I'm very worried about what's going on in Israel and the potential that this conflict is going to become something much larger and affect all of us. So opportunities to talk about this and to help people see the importance of getting yourself prepared. The writing's on the wall. Use whichever idiom you want. Now is the time. The signs are out there everywhere. And so, at Jace Medical, our corner of all of this is it basically boils down to our efforts to help people be better prepared medically. And, what that means is we offer prescription medications that people can get to have a supply of, so that when the supply chain is disrupted, due to things like these geopolitical events or other issues, that you've got what you need on hand. So that's emergency medications like antibiotics, antifungals, antivirals. That's a long list. We've just recently amplified that from 5 antibiotics out to about 25 other medications. And then also medications you might have to take for chronic conditions like blood pressure, diabetes, seizure disorders, where we can get you a year's supply of those medications. I can't emphasize enough right now how the time is now.
I want to go through that again. Walk through how can people do this? Because I thought, hey, every state's got something. So walk through when people think of Jace Medical in times of emergencies, and you have preached the gospel of supply chains and active pharmaceutical ingredients. The Chinese Communist Party is quite brilliant, taking of the strategic high ground of all of this, and really have us at their whim, right? To not shut that down. But this is actually broader as you talk about conflicts and talk about, like happened in, or just emergencies like happened in Maui, of which you were one of the people that volunteered immediately to help folks out. But walk through what are actually the services and products, and why now, we're worried about an expanding regional conflict that may draw us back into the Middle East for another decade or so. As we talked in the show, what can you actually do for people and deliver for them today to make their at least their mind at rest on, as we say, check boxes, right? Check boxes, and make sure you're not worried about 100 things. Let's take it down to a half a dozen.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the right approach. So you're right. China, when it comes to our pharmaceutical supply here in the U.S., China has us by the throat. And so rather than sit around waiting for the pharmaceutical companies or the government to take action and help secure those supply chains, we're left right now to our own devices. And so What that means is you go to our website. It's Jase Medical, JASE medical.com. And the process that we've created there is basically it's a quick and easy telemedicine process where you fill out some information, some of your health information, you select the medications you're interested in. That information goes to a board certified physician who reviews it, and then ultimately will write a prescription and send that prescription to one of our partner pharmacies. The medications get delivered to your door. What we offer is, as I mentioned previously, basically medications that you'd use in an emergency. So that would be things like antibiotics, antifungals, things that you don't take every day, but that when you need them and you need them quick. So that is our traditionally what we call our Jase case. It starts with 5 antibiotics. From there, you can build it out to include quite a few other medications. And then the other side of the service is the Jase Daily. Jase Daily is for those medications you take every day. And in that instance, very similar encounter. Let us know what medications you take, a little bit about your health conditions, and the physicians will write a prescription for a full year supply of your blood pressure medication, of your thyroid medication, whatever the case may be. And you get all these medications delivered to your door in a matter of days. And you mentioned it. That's what we get back. The word we get back from our patients and customers is just an immediate sense of peace of mind, where they now know that if and when something happens, that's one of those really important checks, as you mentioned, that they don't have to worry about anymore.
So once again, how do I get over the hurdle? Just before I let you go, how do I get over the hurdle? Because doesn't each state you have to be? If I'm like in Virginia or folks in Missouri, our new stations there, the folks in Missouri, got folks in Atlanta, or our streaming services were all over. If you're in an individual state, how do they get over that hurdle?
Yeah, so every state does have its rules and regulations, which we abide by and the physicians abide by. For the most part, going to the website, filling out the form, you may have a brief interaction, whether that's via text or phone. It's nothing that you have to set up an appointment. You just do it all on the site. And in most cases, you don't actually even have to do that. But it does depend on your state. The system, when you go through that process, you'll let us know where you are, and we'll send you through the correct process. But really, at the end of the day, and it's funny you bring up Missouri. That's one state that's been a little bit harder to work with when it comes to this kind of telemedicine. But otherwise, every other state really it's a pretty easy process.
Okay, those folks in Missouri, right? It's tough down there.
We're working on it. Yeah, on it.
Yeah, I know you are. The show me say, Dr. Shawn, really appreciate this. I can tell you from the folks that have tried it and gotten the Jase case and others in the dailies, it's been a great service. People are really excited about it. And what I love is for people to know the background. We used to have Rosemary Gibson on in the early days of war and pandemic. When we shifted from war and impeachment to pandemic back in January 2020, we were the first ones. We were kind of ahead of it all, and we started reaching out for experts. I'd had a pretty good feel for China, given my experience in going anti-CCP. And Rosemary would come on, and she literally would talk about the problem you solved. So when I first found out about your company, I said, wow, these guys actually listened and took action, because this is a huge deal. I mean, if you leave all the emergencies and this thing of this metastasizing Middle East war, problems we got on the southern border, all of it, we knew it, but it took Rosemary Gibson to explain it to the audience, and people were shocked to understand that essentially 100% of the active pharmaceutical ingredients, but still 80% of the generics, even the ones made in India, as the guys in India and Modi's administration will tell you, hey, the Chinese still have a chokehold on us.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It's been shocking how that's all moved out. And even President Trump tried to, President Trump set the factory up, and I don't think that's still up, and I don't think that's even gotten launched yet about making generics here. So, Dr. Shawn, that in and of itself was strategic.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. I mean, India announced during COVID, came out that it was something like 70% of their medications that they produced for the world got their APIs from China. So really all roads do lead back to China. And you're right on with what Rosemary Gibson putting the word out. And it's you were one of the first and early ones, and we're so grateful for this partnership, because anytime we get a chance to, and for me to just stand up and tell people, like, you guys, this is going on, this is real, this is something people just don't know. They don't realize where our medications, that we don't have the ability to produce these they're vital medications. They're vital, and ultimately mean that's our national security. And we have no plan B. So, again, it's that empowerment, it's the self-reliance. That's what we're pushing. That's what we're trying to get people to wake up to.
Dr. Shawn Rowland, thank you so much. Honored to have you on here. Honored to have you as a sponsor. And we love the product. We love the service. And anything we can do to make sure people get more access to this, go to jacemedical.com right now. Check it out. Just immerse yourself in the information. You'll see these are very smart people. So thank you for being on here.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
I want to play. Okay, so obviously, the direction of the House, your leverage points, we cannot give up. They're all over wanting to bring to the floor and change the motion to vacate. They want to do anything they can to take power away from you. That's one of the big fights we have here, and are going to continue to have. I want to show, as you know, we have not spent any time, zero, on the Republican primary. Why? Because the Keebler elves are irrelevant. The one thing we have done, and President Trump said the other day that's happened, I haven't seen an official thing, maybe I've missed it, is that after the debate in Miami, there's going to be no more debates. President Trump said that his people have been told that. That's one of the things we're fighting for. So when you see this next clip, understand we're doing this for a reason. What are the reason we're doing it? We're doing it for a mindset of the Republican Party. And not just that, a guy who's now desperate to get traction with donors, get traction with voters, get traction with conservative media. I should say in different donors, conservative media, and then voters. But the first two platforms is donors are drying up. The conservative media is not really covering him. In fact, some of the conservative media that were all in on the DeSantis train are some of the ones treating him worse because they bit hook, line, and sinker and got exposed as kind of anti-Trump or never Trump. They're quite bitter about that. So I want you to, in the context of that, this took place this morning on Morning Mika. And remember, Morning Mika, their number one priority, Morning Mika's number one priority is what's best for the nation and what's best for working people that are American citizens in this nation we call the United States of America. Let's go ahead and watch this clip.
Raw for our community down in South Florida. We have the second biggest Israeli American community in the country. We have a large Jewish population that's really expanded a lot in the last few years, particularly with the Orthodox Jews. So everybody knows somebody who's been over there. People know people that are missing, and unfortunately, people know people that have been killed. This is perhaps Israel's darkest hour. This is a country that had to fight for its inception in the late 1940s. The Arab armies wanted to extinguish it in the Crib. Then they were going to get invaded in 1967, and they preempted that in the Six-Day War. Then they did get invaded with the Yom Kippur War, and they were able to win that. And then they faced intifada after intifada. And then the level of barbarity, it's hard to comprehend. The images and the videos are absolutely disgusting. And I just think it's important as Americans that we all come together. Israel has a right to defend itself, and that means do that to the hilt. You have to uproot the terrorist infrastructure, these networks, and Hamas needs to be no more. I fear what happens in these situations is, people say Israel can respond. Then a week later, then 2 weeks later, then people start to blame Israel. There's no moral equivalence between a Hamas terrorist and an Israeli civilian, and they have every right to see this through to the hilt.
So, Governor, let me ask you about a mistake that not only we make in the United States, but Israel has made, unfortunately, in this case. And that is, with Israel, the belief that somehow Hamas could be managed through the years. You've been to the Middle East many times. You've visited Israel many times. And there was somehow that mistaken belief, just like the mistaken belief from our government through the years that somehow a relationship with Iran could be managed. I'd like you to begin with talking about the security failures in Israel, if you have any insights on how that happened. And then I'd like to know if you are president of the United States, or if you were president right now, would the DeSantis administration support an Israeli military strike either on Iranian military targets Iran's oil infrastructure, which, of course, funds terrorism across the globe?
Well, on the former, I think it's too soon to tell. I don't have any inside information, but clearly this was an orchestrated attack. Israel prepares for things like this, and Hamas was able to have, unfortunately, a great deal of success. I think in the past, there may have been some people in Israel thought Hamas could be managed, but I also think that there was an impulse pushing against them taking care of Hamas once and for all, because they would always come under international commendation. People would start attacking Israel. I mean, how many resolutions has the United Nations done attacking Israel over the years? So I think that there was that practical political consideration.
Put a pin in this. Memphis, don't rewind. Stop it right there. There's no discussion to date, and we have to have this discussion because, I mean, IDF, and look, I was a kid with a paper route in the '67 war. And then later, obviously, I think it was in college during the '73 war when they were caught by surprise. But these people were heroes. I mean, the '67 war, they took on all comers attack. And in '73, and people say they were surprised. And people got to remember, I think the attack happened on the 50th anniversary date or close to it. And we know how the Islamists keep those dates are very, very important. There's no discussion. There has to be a discussion of, even in '73, Yom Kippur, they knew that they were building up forces. Because it was the high holy days, they were caught surprised because it was the holiest days on the calendar of the Jewish faith. Here, this is fundamentally different. And there's something, you can't have this discussion unless you discuss that. Also, internally, the internal Israeli politics, and we have to make sure we get that sort of exactly, when we say they're the greatest ally, who is Israel today? And they say, well, they're all united. Well, that's, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, they were at civil war. IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, which is pound for pound, at least up until Saturday morning, was considered, I don't know, they and Hezbollah, two of the fighting forces in the world. Totally caught by, and not just surprise, it just beggars belief that this thing was so planned and so trained and so coordinated that it just happened out of nowhere. I will never, ever believe that. That's what's so disturbing about this Times of Israel report on the Egyptian intelligence, that the Egyptian intelligence knew about this, heard about it, and went and told the Israelis, because they work in conjunction on many occasions with Egyptian intelligence and Saudi and UAE and others in the region who want to keep the crazies at bay. The IDF, I think, came out, and I don't know if they made a declaration, but they essentially said, the woke IDF came out against Netanyahu, and I'm not trying to take Netanyahu's side here, but in this judicial reform, when they had these mass street protests, IDF kind of came out and said, we side with, what you're doing is going to strip the Constitution. I mean, they came out and said, although he's commander-in-chief, we're with the guys that are revolting against you. So the question is, how woke is Israel's military? How woke is wokeness, which has hurt our military capacity and our intelligence capacity? Because the intelligence capacity here in the United States is turned on the MAGA, turned on the deplorables, turned on you. Their number one thing is that you're climate change and Trump supporters. Climate change and Trump supporters are the two biggest threats in the world. So DeSantis kind of skips over that, and what they're talking about is and as you know, if we can play the footage, as we've warned, we'll get to Jeremy Bash in a second. If this goes to a comprehensive, and certainly Israel has a right to defend herself. She had a right to defend herself on Saturday morning if she wasn't caught by surprise. Nobody said she didn't have a right to defend herself. Look, the Israel haters are going to say that, but nobody's questioned that here, and MAGA's never questioned that. The deplorables never questioned that. We thought it might be helpful if you defended yourself in advance and not get caught asleep like this. This is not a small thing. This is far worse than 9/11, because 9/11 was terrible. Don't get me wrong, and we don't know the answers to that. But 9/11, we at least know that at least what part of the conspiracy was to do it. Here, this was 9/11 wasn't a vast military operation. This was a vast military operation. Can we also show the reporting the mass and what I want to show is the photos of the leaving of southern Lebanon. Hezbollah, which is super bad hombres. They're in Lebanon and obviously in parts of Syria, but that's to the north of Israel. I think it's Galilee. They're to the north of Israel, up in the Bekaa Valley and Lebanon. There's mass right now. People getting out of there, understand the balloon can go up, and this will be metastasizing because these people are just going to sit there. They're just not going to take the incoming. You got the Israelis are getting ready to do ground combat operations in Gaza. Just so you put it in perspective, if you took Israel, Israel's got that shape, it's kind of like a dagger down. If you take it to the point of that dagger in the south as the southern border, and you go all the way up to the north to Lebanon, Israel's essentially, the simplest way I think about it is it goes essentially from the North Carolina-Virginia border all the way to Baltimore. That's Israel. Or people say it's the size of Rhode Island. If you broke it down into square miles, it's the size of Rhode Island. Obviously, it's more like it's thinner and longer. Gaza itself, take Washington, D.C., the district itself, not the suburbs, just take the district, double it, and you're essentially what Gaza is. So it's not physically big. It's called the Gaza Strip for a reason. It's small. Whereas D.C., I think, has 700,000 people. Gaza has over 2 million. I would say half of those are on the payroll of somebody, even the street vendors. This is why it's impossible that this happened. Just don't, it strains credulity. Don't treat me like an idiot. People knew about this. And that gets to the heart of what the response is going to be. That gets to the heart of getting drawn into a broader regional war that we just got out of 20 years of. And besides that, like I said, I was a naval officer. I was a lieutenant JG. I might have made lieutenant. Was in 79. I'm on a Spurns class destroyer, plane guard, and part of the surface action group around. We had 2 carrier strike battle groups in the North Arabian Sea. One at a place called Camel Station, the other called Gonzo Station, right there off of southern Iran. And we would always make sorties into the Persian Gulf, basically to be radar picket ships to pick up potential Russian aircraft coming to the. This is when we had the hostages in Tehran, and we're doing the workup for the failed Iran hostage rescue. Remember that debacle under Jimmy Carter that essentially made Ronald Reagan president of the United States? That, I think, was the dagger in the heart of besides the inflation and everything else, it was a mess. I think the final thing for swing voters was Carter looked incompetent. But then my kid brother was a Navy pilot with the Pacific Fleet. They went through the Suez Canal, joined up with the 6th, became an element of the 6th Fleet. He was part of the assault. I think it was in '83. Memory serves me correctly, on Gaddafi, on the raid on Gaddafi when they killed Gaddafi's kids, and Gaddafi went to the desert for years after that. They blew up, I think, the palace. Later, I had one of my nephews, a bunch of nephews in the military, but one was deployed over and over again with these amphibious groups and carrier strike forces in the Persian Gulf during the Iraq and Afghan war. Once again, American military. So this is in the 2000s, early 2000s. So that's 30 years right there, 25 years right there. Then Mo deploys with the 101st, I think in 2011, to Iraq. As part of that was that whole logistics effort to kind of consolidate everything down to have Biden was negotiating the status of forces agreement to make sure that we had a contingent that could stay there in perpetuity. And that collapsed. That was in 2011, I think. That's sure it's 30 or 40 years. Was President Reagan said there were 2 things in his administration he wished he could do over again. One was the amnesty deal. And the other was the amnesty deal where he gave amnesty first and then nobody got sent home and they didn't close the border. But the second and bigger one was putting of the troops into Lebanon. That got, they blew up the Marine barracks and they immediately pulled them out. And he told Cap Weinberger, what are we doing this for? Why are we inserting American combat troops into a hornet's nest. He was quite upset. They hadn't quite briefed him on everything that was going on. Those terrorists are the same ones at Israel's throat today. You have to think through, and I mean really think through. You have to think through to a very deep level what we're doing here. It's complex. It's not all what it seems, and you're the ones that have to underwrite this. Okay, we're going to take a short commercial break. We've got Ukraine, we have Israel, we have the greater regional conflict. Also, all the games being played on Capitol Hill. We want you to have nothing but inside baseball because you're the deciding factor here. We're going to go to Rome and our own Ben Harnwell. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back in the war room in just a moment.
That this attack of October 7th is your 9/11. Can you explain what that means to an American audience and what the scope of this is in your country?
Sadly, since I said it, it turned out to be 10 times bigger than 9/11 because till now we suffered 900 fatalities. So proportionally, because the Israel's population is smaller than 10 million people, it's like having more than 30,000 American fatalities. And by the way, it's more dangerous than even bigger than 9/11, sadly, I say, because your enemies are 7,000 miles away. Our enemies are 7,000 feet away. And that's what all the people of Israel, and especially those who live on our southern border, felt on Saturday, on the Jewish Sabbath, and on our holiday, when they woke up and they felt and they encountered hundreds of barbaric terrorists who came into their homes, slaughtering them, butchering them, kidnapping grandparents, Holocaust survivors, torturing, raping. You know, these savages are so close to us, and for so many years, since we withdrew from the city of Gaza, from the Gaza Strip 17 years ago, and Hamas took power, you know, we thought, maybe we can live side by side by supplying them economic incentives, working together on the rehabilitation of Gaza. It never helped. It never helped because exactly like ISIS or Al-Qaeda, you cannot change a genocidal Islamist organization with economic incentives. You have to obliterate their terrorist infrastructure. You have to. Otherwise, it will happen again, for sure, no question. And now they were emboldened by their success. We see, and still I can't understand Mr. Musk and why he still allows Khamenei to hold his Twitter account and continue to radicalize and inspire many more radicals around the world to attack Israel, to attack the democratic world. Why would we allow these savages to use our tools against us, against our values? It's something that is really unthinkable.
Ambassador, publicly, the United States have not drawn a direct line to Iran, but we know where Hamas gets its support. We know where it gets its funding.
93% of its terror budget comes from Iran. Iran is the head of the octopus. Hamas is only one tentacle.
Ambassador, is there any question in your mind that Iran had a hand in this attack?
For sure, no question. I mean, we don't have, and this is not really important to now to investigate whether they got directions directly from Iran. But I just tweeted, and we've seen leaders of Hamas thanking publicly the leaders of Iran for the budget, for the weapons. We know that they are being trained in Iran. We saw recently the leadership of Hamas visiting Iran, meeting with the butcher of Tehran, the Iranian President Raisi. No question there is an involvement of Iran. No question that if Iran would continue to acquire nuclear capabilities, their long-term goal is to supply a nuclear umbrella to all of their terrorist proxies who are surrounding Israel. You just showed the map. We have another proxy of Iran on our northern border, Hezbollah. We have Hamas on our southern border. They have the Houthis attacking Saudi Arabia, attacking Yemen, attacking the UAE. There's a moderate camp in the Middle East, Israel, the UAE, Bahrain, hopefully Saudi Arabia, and there is Iran who wants to impose its radical Shiite hegemony over the Middle East. Later, against the whole world, the entire world. That's why they're using and the testing ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missile. Intercontinental are not aimed for Israel. They are aimed at you. They will be aimed at you.
So, Congressman, before you tell us your experiences this past weekend.
Why it takes prudence, it's going to take discernment, it's going to take real thinking. He just named it's UAE and Bahrain's a tiny island where they can go party and drink. I mean, nice guys, don't get me wrong. But you've got Iran at power, you've got Iraq, Egypt, the Saudis, the Kuwaitis, Qatar. I'm telling you, it's a very bad neighbor. You got the Turks. This is a bad neighborhood, a very bad neighborhood. And we have to think, and it hasn't helped, we're bailing out the Europeans all the time. This is why you have to have a total rethinking of our geostrategic plan here. We have an invasion on our southern border with 8 to 10 million invaders here that if you watch over the next couple of days, you've seen already in Lebanon, they're getting out of there. The Lebanese are moving out of their southern Lebanon as fast as they can because they understand Hezbollah, how tough Hezbollah is and how tough the IDF are. And the IDF and Hezbollah, the IDF and Hezbollah are not big names in collateral damage. If it happens, it happens. Your problem. And these two are going after each other. I want you to sit around. Let's have a thought experiment. I'm going to have just a radical thought experiment. Let's think. I want to think downrange. I don't know. Maybe in February or March of 2025, when President Trump's back in, let's think of the mass deportation effort here in the United States. How's that going to work? You ready for that? You seen what's happening in New York City now? Seen what's happening in these protests right now? Seen what's happening in your lovely Ivy League schools right now? Yeah, how's that going to work? How's it going to go for you? You got, I don't know, 8 million, 10 million invaders here brought in by this illegitimate regime. How's that going to work? You think that's just going to, oh, yeah. Hey, can you please leave? Can you go back? Yeah, we rethought this. The people let you in. It was illegal. It was illegal, so you have to leave now. Can you do that? Here's a bus ticket. We're going to send you back. No, okay, here's a bag of food. See ya. Wouldn't want to be ya. Is that going to work out? How do you think that's going to be? Think they're going to be strewing flowers to the ICE guys? Think about it. Gaza? The Gaza Strip? You got Gaza here. I can give you 100 Gazas. From Minneapolis to South Texas. You want Gaza? You don't need to cut on BBC to see it. You don't need to cut on CNN to see it. Just drive into your cities right now and look around. Look, go to the Roosevelt Hotel in Midtown Manhattan. How's that going to work out for you? Just let's show up. Hey guys, Eric Adams was wrong. That's illegal. Hello guys. Hey, we got some buses here. We're going to take you guys. We're just going to take you down to a place called Brownsville, Texas. We'll take you there. Then we'll just drop you off. No problem. Here's a bag of chips and here's $50. Is that good? Is that going to work? Is that going to work out for you? Remember, all your betters are the people that let them in here. Because this audience, you're domestic terrorists, you're haters. You. Don't look away. It's you. Look in the mirror. It's you. You're the problem in this country. You're the problem. In fact, you're the problem in the world. You're the problem in the world because you support Donald Trump. And so you're an agent of chaos. Don't believe it? What did they say about here the other day? In a cave-like DC studio, that would be the war room, Bannon sows chaos to agents of chaos. That would be you. You're an agent of chaos because you broke the Kevin Churchill McCarthy speakership because you wanted to. The Wall Street Journal said because you had nothing better to do. The Wall Street Journal said, and I quote from the Wall Street Journal, as Republicans in Congress, they will have to get serious about governing and elect a new speaker with dispatch. They need to isolate. They need to isolate Steve Bannon's acolytes who treat shutting down the government for no good reason like a personal power play. That would be you. For no good reason. I want you to embrace this over the next couple of days. That's what the Murdochs really think about you. They have the cheerleaders on. They have the cheerleaders on Fox News TV for stupid people to get you all worked up. Get you all worked up. Get you lathered up. Let me get that American flag out there. Let me be waving it around. Get you all worked up, hopping around. Yeah. Let's go Hollywood. We're going to do some hostage rescue now. Let's go do that. Let's go skip around. Let's go do that. Let's get hot footing around. Let's go. Get you all jacked up. Get the cattle herd. Get the cattle herd all pointed in one direction. Got to herd them up. Hit them up. Move them out. Hit them up. Move them out. You the herd? You the herd? Remember, the only time you weren't the herd is when herd immunity was a solution. No, can't do that. The herd's not the herd. Got to get a vax. Now you're the herd again. Ben Harnwell, you're watching this play out, and our good buddies in Ukraine, bad week for Zelensky, but he's going to try to weave in there. Try the whole thing. They're doing a package. This is how little they think of your intelligence. They're putting the package together even as we speak with Ukraine to get the Ukraine funding in. They understand they need $80 billion in the money laundering operation. They got to go big, $80 to $100 billion. They're going to go big early. They're going to attach that to Israel, and then they're going to attach that to more debt relief for FEMA or more emergency relief. Oh, and they're going to tuck in a little of the southern border. But remember, the last southern border in the CR, the southern border taste, that was for illegal alien camps. That was for processing. That was for concierge services. Ain't any money there to shut it down, and there's certainly no money in there to send them home. No money there to get the bag of chips. Get the bag of chips and a tuna fish sandwich with a pickle and a can of cream soda and a bus ticket back to Brownsville, Texas. No, that wasn't in there. Missed that. Ben Harnwell, your thoughts and observations.
Well, as President Biden, firstly, good afternoon to you, Steve. As President Biden wheels round now with this further request of $100 billion, which you were just mentioning, I think the whole of America right now will be absolutely delighted by the fact that the Ukrainians announced that they had a partial success retaking Andriivka, which is a small town towards the southeast. Obviously, no, of course, no one's ever heard of it. It's of no strategic importance. That's where this is from Reuters, that they're pushing out the narrative today that they're making sort of slight gains towards the south and towards the east. But there's really nothing, as I reported yesterday. Ukraine itself now is what's carrying it forward is inertia of the previous 18 months. When I say being carried forward, I mean mediatically being carried forward simply by the press inertia. There's very little. There was also something earlier to say that Zelensky had assured the head of the atomic agency that was overseeing the safety of the nuclear plant in Zaporizhzhia. It has about 500 to 600 Russian troops there, and he got this personal assurance by Zelensky that Zelensky wouldn't try and bomb it. This is a story of so little importance. Had it been this time last week, I wouldn't even bring it on to the war room. But I'm bringing it on now just to indicate where we are now. Just absolutely dead as far as real international interest is concerned, because of course America has spurned and jilted its most recent lover and returned to its wife. It is Israel which is now dominating America's attention and also the rest of the world's attention with that, Steve. I do have a couple of things.
We had footage, but hang on. Before we had footage, and I have my Getter count, I don't have it up now, about protests outside the, I think, Israeli embassy in London. Are the British people, and I'm not saying the British people that were around in 1941, that we fought in North Africa and in Sicily and in Italy, landed in Normandy, 8th Air Force, fought with the Royal Air Force Bomber Command, fought all the way through Market Garden, and then stopped Montgomery and Patton from going into Berlin. More on that later. But those, and the Brits have fought with us in the Pacific. Is that the same British nation we have today? Is there overwhelming support for our alliance with Israel?
No. As I mentioned yesterday, the support is majority support, but it's simply going to be a case of waiting for the bombed, the fragments of kids, as it were, bombed pieces of children in body bags that'll be pulled out of the Gaza Strip. That's going to change not just Britain, but the wider European Union. I mean, to give an example of where the European Union is right now, yesterday, the neighbourhood commissioner had said that there was going to be scrapped immediately all aid to the Gaza Strip, and within about 6 hours. That's sort of late last night. The European Commission put out another statement saying, actually, we're not going to do this. I mean, we're only talking about 200 or so million. It's not a huge amount of money. But they said, we're not going to do this, actually. We're going to analyse it on a case-by-case basis. The humanitarian support will continue going forward. But we'll analyse this on a case-by-case basis because we don't want any money. We'll do an investigation to make sure that no money is going through to support terrorism. That's what we'll do. So you're left thinking, well, wait, just wheel back a minute. You mean you hadn't done that already? European Union, you hadn't done any due diligence to see where European taxpayers' money was going, to see whether it was going to fund terrorism. You're going to do that now. So that's where it's really chaos, I suppose, is the best way of describing it coming out of the European Union. When you're asking specifically about the UK, and this is an interesting story, Steve, specifically because you asked on last evening's show, yesterday night's show, about how the BBC was handling this. It has come to light that since 2019, when the BBC's editorial guidelines were last adjusted, they had, and this is their formal editorial guidance, they have an instruction that journalists, when referring to Hamas, should refer to them as fighters, militants, or political resistance, and that journalists should not call the attacks on Israel, inverted commas, terrorism. And the explanation for this was that they thought that this was too emotive and had significant political overtones. And the BBC had said yesterday that it currently has no plans for an imminent review of those editorial guidelines. That's where the BBC is right now. I mean, it's really quite appalling if you think about it. That in the UK, Hamas is a prescribed terrorist organization. It's remarkable that the national broadcaster, the state-funded national broadcaster, funded out of taxpayers' pockets via an instrument called the license fee, that the British Broadcasting Corporation has an instruction to journalists, which they are following.
Ben, I got to bounce. We'll get more into this tomorrow, particularly the rest of our allies, the NATO allies, France and these people. How strong are they? How tightly handcuffed are they with these massive Muslim populations they have in places? I mean, you just had a virtual civil war in France a couple of months ago. Anyway, Ben, how can people keep up with you on Getter and all your social media?
If I'm coming back tomorrow, Steve, I'd like to mention this joint statement that France, Germany, Italy, the UK, and the US put out today. But I'll come back tomorrow. And as far as the BBC is concerned, and this is what I might hit out on Getter later, the Foreign Secretary, the British Foreign Secretary, challenged the BBC on air to refer to Hamas as a terrorist organisation. That will all be on Getter. You can find that, which is simply my surname, Harnwell, at Harnwell, or reposted by at Steve Bannon. You can also follow me on Rumble, on Bannon's War Room, and on the exclusive newsletter on warroom.org. Thank you so much, Steve. God bless.
Perfect coverage, sir. Thank you so much. I want to thank the team over at Birch Gold. In times of turbulence, which the world has been through three times for the last 5,000 years, a good hedge against that turbulence has been gold. Go to birchgold.com/banner right now. Get all the information we have on the end of the dollar empire. But most importantly, get in contact with Philip Patrick and his team and ask them about gold as a hedge in turbulent times. Folks, if you haven't noticed, we're in turbulent times, and they're about to get a lot more turbulent in this nation and the rest of the world. Okay, tomorrow we'll be back at 10 a.m. We'll be covering the speakers race nonstop. I'll be up on Getter all night. Make sure you're following me on Getter. Go download the Getter app right now. It's totally free. Billy Joe Shaver, get thee behind me, Satan. What a better way to end today's broadcast. We'll see you back here at 10 o'clock. I'll be on Getter all night. See you then.
Lord Jesus Christ, I looked into the mirror and I couldn't see myself. The demons that were in me had turned me wrong side out. I knew inside my soul I was headed straight for hell, but I couldn't for my life figure how to help myself. And I said, get thee behind me, Satan, for I commanded in the name of the Lord, that Jesus Christ of Nazareth, yeah. Get thee behind me, Satan, for I commanded in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. The